Hey, my name is Amber. I recently just finished this portrait of Marc-André Leclerc. Let's talk about it.
This kid, Marc-André Leclerc.
Marc-André Leclerc.
Yeah, this Canadian guy. Hardly anyone has heard of him because he's so under the radar, and he's been doing like all kinds of crazy alpine soloing.
What makes it so crazy?
He basically just goes out and climbs some of the most difficult walls and alpine faces in the world, the most challenging things that anyone's ever climbed, really.
So he's just next level.
Yeah, it's like so crazy.
Marc-André Leclerc was this incredible Canadian rock climber and alpinist. Peter Mortimer was filming a documentary about him when Marc just went MIA, and he free soloed Mount Robson's Emperor Face, something that no one had ever done before. When the film crew caught up with him and asked him why he didn't tell them about it so that they could film, his response was,
"Because it wouldn't be a solo to me if somebody was there."
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true.
It's just a completely different experience if somebody comes with you. Yeah, even if they don't help you. It just wouldn't be even remotely close to the adventure that I was looking for.
and that is one of the most badass things I've ever heard in my life.
One of the interesting things with Marc-André is that I don't know if there is video of most of the stuff he's doing. Yeah, I mean, he's just going out and climbing for himself in such a pure style. It's pretty full on.
I have no personal experience or interest really in climbing or alpinism, so it's a bit funny that I've seen this documentary at least 6 times. But I think that the way that Marc-André lived his life is just so incredibly inspiring. And I tend to feel connected with anyone who leads their life with passion and authenticity and maybe does things that other people think is a little crazy or dangerous or just out of the norm.
I went to some big rave out in the woods and we got talking our spin hoops and they spun hoops. And that's kind of really how I got in with Marc. Then you talk to him, what's he's climbed and what's he done, was like, whoa, you know, and you never heard of him or anything. I see young climbers everywhere. Millions of people, look how good I am. Stroking themselves on Instagram. You know, the modern world can be a bit bland, but Marc, he belongs in a different era. He belongs in the 80s, the 70s, when it was like wild, yeah? All right. He's a man out of his own time, isn't he? That's why he's so special, he's a breath of fresh air. Hey, I got it going this time.
I connect with people who tend to take things to the extreme.
Crazy.
He came in just all guns a-blazing. I was like, oh, this kid's a really special breed.
He was a bit young and brash.
It's almost like a parallel to climbing. My friends all like to explore a little bit, and sometimes I like to explore a lot. And it was the same with the party, and everyone would want to take a tab of acid and kind of hang out and have a good time, and I'd want to take 6 tabs of acid and disappear for 20 hours.
I connect with the experience of finding a passion that puts you into this flow state and finally quiets your busy mind.
And when I'm in the mountains on a big adventure, life is so incredibly simple. I'm totally focused. I don't feel like that squirrel-brained, twitchy sort of stuff. And I had a feeling of clarity and calmness and control.
When I think about all of the things that I really love to do, like riding motorcycles, roller skating, hula hooping, art, I love them because they force me to live in the present moment. I have no opportunity for overthinking. I have no anxiety about the past. I'm not worried about the future. I'm just in the moment, and it is such a relief.
It puts you directly in the present. You can't be thinking about anything else. And you're interacting and improvising in the moment. and you're just in control.
Marc-André did have some challenges as a kid. He certainly didn't come into this world as a square peg ready to fit into a square hole. And he had a diagnosis of ADHD. So he didn't sit still for very long. And he didn't fit easily into the typical educational environment.
I don't think that everything needs a label or a diagnosis, but learning about ADHD and my highly sensitive nervous system really helped me to understand some more of my past and connect some of this stuff back to my life experiences. And it allowed me to really lean into the things that make me happy and fulfill me and keep my nervous system in a good state. And it's kind of helped me to stop from trying to force myself to fit into some box that I thought that other people expected of me, or like how I thought other people were functioning. Part of that was realizing that these regular cycles of burnout that I would experience probably had something to do with the fact that my body needed to be moving and my hands needed to be creating. And instead, I was forcing myself to sit at a computer for over 8 hours a day for 13 years.
When I'm soloing rock climbs, I don't really like to feel like I'm pushing myself. Like, that's not the reason for soloing rock for me. I don't like to feel like I'm doing something intense and scary, or...
So then, why do it?
Like, more just to have a casual, fun adventure and cruise around.
I learned about authentic self and role self. We're all born with our authentic soul. But between infancy and adulthood, something happens. Our role self starts appearing, an identity that we begin adopting in early childhood as a result of criticism or shame and expectations of others. Our authentic self is who we would be without any outside influence. Our role self is who we become to adapt to our environment and societal pressures.
If you're never given free rein to have your little adventures as a kid, you never really learn who you are. You don't learn what your strengths or your weaknesses are. And you never learn that you're capable.
Growing up, I loved to draw. And then I realized that between the ages of 17 and 32, I could probably count on one hand the amount of times that I picked up a pencil to draw. And the airbrush that I got as a graduation gift just sat in its box at my parents' house. Until last year. I was having trouble sitting at the computer for long enough to even do some part-time freelance work. That's when I decided to pick up my airbrush again and learn how to use it. I could feel myself connecting back to my authentic self again when I was drawn right back to what I loved drawing as a child, which was portraits. So here I am, dedicating most of my time to painting and developing my skills as an artist, and I'm absolutely loving it. There's just this little annoying piece of life, which is the need to make money and pay bills.
Mark was just a true dirtbag, like seriously broke. He didn't have a car, didn't even have a phone.
I had a phone for a while, left it in a stuffed sack with some smoked salmon, and then the phone was stolen by a wild fox.
No way.
I feel like maybe I'm just better off without one.
And I was trying to think of it in terms of making money. Like, who could I paint next that's popular enough that maybe someone will want to buy this portrait? Taylor Swift? But I didn't really like that line of thinking and how superficial it felt to just be thinking of inspiration based on money. So I started to think about who and what really inspires me.
For a couple summers there, he was like living in a stairwell. It's a little surprising when he managed to find a cute blonde girl to live in the stairwell with him.
His stairwell was just like a small futon at the bottom of the stairwell, like an entryway. The longer time I spent there, the more it became decorated. So then, like, he had tapestries and pictures. Like, his stairwell became like the lounge. There was no need to live luxuriously because we have what we want, which is climbing. It was easiest just to live as cheaply as we could. And then we decided to just move into a tent in the forest.
He was literally living in a stairwell and then in a tent in the forest in order to just live as cheaply as possible and to continue doing what he loved most. And even after gaining sponsorship from Arc'teryx and having Red Bull filming a documentary about him,
Mark's plan to become a full-time climber certainly seemed to be working out. He'd recently landed his first sponsorship, and here we were, making a film about him.
Serious.
Really serious?
Really joke, your passport.
But Mark had little patience for posing, and he was getting restless.
he was just so focused on his passion. He wasn't focused on the money or media attention.
My first memories of Marc-Andre was seeing him come running out of the forest in Squamish, barefoot with no shirt. He just broke my speed record on the Grand Wall. Mark is a very, very driven climber, but he doesn't care about accolades. He doesn't even care if anybody ever knows what he's climbing.
And that's when I knew who I was going to paint.
I think it's so cool that you're making a movie about Mark. But honestly, he doesn't care about movies. He's not going to put the time and energy into making his own climb significant to the world. He's out climbing. He's too busy climbing.
Pretty incredible, the weather.
He's different than any climber we've ever dealt with.
He doesn't share any information with us. It's frustrating, but at the same time, it's pretty noble.
Mark just kind of follows his own path. He's a free spirit, and that can be difficult to plan around.
Kind of makes him lovable in this weird way, you know? Like, he doesn't give a fuck.
This whole time, chasing Mark around, it was clear he was building up to something big. But we had no idea what it would be. Then the news broke. He had made the first ever solo of the Emperor face on Mount Robson, and it sent shockwaves through the climbing world. I was frustrated that Mark had made this historic ascent, and he hadn't even let us in on his plan. Eventually, we reached Mark and asked him why.
When you guys first approached me about doing a film, it seemed like a cool experience. But like, I've never let you guys actually come and shoot one of my real solos.
Why not?
Because it wouldn't be a solo to me if somebody was there.
I'm really proud of this portrait. It's interesting that one of the things that inspires me so much about him is that he didn't care about sharing what he was doing with the world. He didn't care if people knew the incredible things he was doing. He was just going after what he loved. But since someone made sure to share his story, people like me are given great inspiration and motivation to follow our own path. So with that in mind, I wanted to share the story of where the inspiration for this painting came from. And I would love to paint more passionate, fearless, adventurous people.
A lot of us live our lives thinking of the things we'd like to do or the adventures we'd like to have, but we hold back. I think that's what really stands out to me about Marc-Andre's journey. It's about what is it that you would do if you were able to overcome, the things that you see as limitations or the things that you're afraid of. What would you do?
like Marc-Andre. Fuck.